23. It says we get the first term is 5, and we get the fourth term is 15, and they want us to find a formula that A sub n is equal to dn plus c for the sequence. Now, if you think about it, this is kind of like, if this had been y equal mx plus b, you might could figure out what to do here. Don't I really kind of like have 2 points here? I have, if I look at n and then a sub n, and remember this is like my x and my y, that first point, the n is 1 means a sub n is 5. That's kind of like the 0.15, isn't it? And that second point over there, n is 4, that's the fourth term, and it's equal to 15, so that's its y value. So what I could do here is I could make, here's what you usually do with these types of things. You're given 2 pieces of information, you've got this formula. Usually if you plug them both in, you can figure out what your d is. Sometimes you don't even need both of them, but here we're going to. Let's take this first piece of information here, this 1, 5. A of n is 5. I don't know what d is, but I know n is 1. And I have a c value. I don't know what it is. So I have 5 is equal to d plus c. Okay, so that's one equation I got. I'm going to call it equation A. Now I'm going to work on equation B. I'll use a different color just to... I have A, again, I'll write A of n is dn plus c. But in this one, my A of n is like my y value. It's like 15. D times 4 plus c. So we have 15 is equal to 4d plus c. That's our second equation. All right, do you remember something called linear combination or elimination or adding equations that we did back in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2? And I don't know if we did it this year or not. I can't remember. For some reason, I don't remember us doing it this year. If I take these 2 equations, A and B, if I want to find out what one of the variables is, I need to get rid of a variable. And if you remember, one thing we can do is we can add these equations together and get something to cancel out, and sometimes we have to change them a little bit. What if I multiplied everything in the first equation by -1? I'll put the -1 in. How did that happen? I don't know. Let's say I multiplied everything by -1 in the first equation. I would have -5 is equal to -d minus c, wouldn't I? And then the second equation would be 15 equal 4d plus c. If I change that first equation up a little bit, what would cancel out there? The c's would. Okay, so they go away. And so now if I add the rest of the parts together, 15 minus 5 is 10. 4d minus d is 3d. So I have 10 equal 3d. If I want to find out what d is, all I have to do now is divide by 3. Oh, the d part is 10 over 3. So now I know what my d part is. It's 10 over 3. The d is kind of like the slope. That's my common difference, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up here, and I can go, oh, I can plug that d in. It is now, let me kind of just try to stay on this one page. It is 10/3. The only thing now I don't have is my c if I do that, because I want an x and a y in a formula, don't I? I want my n and my a sub n because I want to be able to plug in any n I want to and get the a sub n that goes with it. So now I have to find the c, okay? Well, here's what I'm going to do there. I may need y'all to remind me of the, let's see, it's 10/3 n plus c. Let me go, I can't fit it on this. N is equal to 10/3 n plus c. And I had the point, one of the points was 1, 4, wasn't it?
1, 5.
1, 5, thanks, okay. Thank you, okay, good. Okay, so here are my points again. I just need to pick one. I'm going to pick, it doesn't really matter, I'll pick the first point just because the numbers are smaller, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now I've got it, remember this is an a sub n and this is an n, so let me plug those in and I can figure out what c is because I've got enough information to plug in stuff and figure out missing parts now. If I let a of n be 5 and in be 1, I can solve for whatever C is. That's 10/3 plus C. So if I just subtract 10 over 3 from both sides. Okay, now I need to get a common denominator, so 5 times 3 would be 15. Let's see. I need to multiply 5 times 3 over 3, don't I? Let me try to write that here. So it would be 15 over 3 minus 10 over 3, I'm just going to write it horizontally here, would be equal to C on the other side, wouldn't it? So what is C? 15 over 3 minus 10 over 3, wouldn't that be 5/3? So now I have my formula. If you remember, my formula was A sub n is, we already figured out that the D was 10/3 by plugging the stuff in the first time and using linear combination. Remember, I want an n in my formula because I'm going to be able to plug in any number of term I want to. And then 5/3. There's my formula right there. That one was a little tricky. I just kind of picked it out in the middle, but it ended up being a little trickier than I thought it was going to be. What were our steps? What did we use? We used the two, I'm going to call them points, even though they're not really points here. They're numbers in a sequence, but it's like they had an X and a Y, didn't they? If we look at it that way. It's like I took the 2 points and I plugged them in to A of n is equal to dn plus C. And what I did was I was able to get rid of that C the first time and figure out what D was. So get rid of a variable, get rid of either D or C. I chose to get rid of D or C, and I used linear combination. And that's when I ended up at the top of this page, right? And then from here, I had more of the formula filled in. I just needed that little one piece left, so I just picked 1 point and plugged it in and solved for C. So once I get here, pick just 1 point now, plug in, solve for the remaining missing piece